Something that we've talked quite a lot about here on this channel are the differences between living here in Sweden and living in England. But what about if you're Swedish and you're just wondering whether you should make the jump across to London to live or visit for a while? Well, I've seen your comments and I'm here today to answer your calls. Guys, we're going to be talking about what it's like to move to the UK as a Swedish person and 5 things that maybe you should think about and get prepared for when you move. Quick disclaimer before we start, today's video is going to be kind of London centric, and the reason for that is the impression that I get is that most Swedish people are at least going to start in London, if not end up there. Reason being, if you've seen the statistics, I'm pretty sure there's a fact that goes around that says by population, London would be the 3rd biggest Swedish city because of how many Swedish people live there. So yes, perhaps the experiences I'm about to describe won't be so relevant for those of you about to make the leap out to deepest, darkest Yorkshire. However, I'm guessing that London's a place most of you will be starting or even visiting if you want to go to England for the first time. So let's hop right in and see what you might want to expect. And the first thing that comes to mind is opening times. If you're a Swede that's got quite comfortable in the fact that you can just do your weekly food shop at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night, kiss goodbye to that right now. Yes, according to the law, most food shops in the UK have to close by a latest of 4 PM on a Sunday afternoon. The rest of your week, literally satisfy yourself to your heart's content. If you want to go shopping at 3 o'clock in the morning, I might judge you, but you're allowed to. But if you're used to doing your shopping on a Sunday, you're gonna want to pre-prepare because come 4 o'clock, they're chucking you out whether you've got your broccoli or not. But when it comes to restaurants and your clothes shops, they're actually open for a lot longer than in most Swedish cities and towns when it comes to a Sunday. They open at 10 or 9 o'clock in the morning, so you can start your day just like the rest of the week. So yes, you no longer have to plan your Sunday around the fact that your favourite fika spot doesn't open until 12 because it's probably been open before you were awake. But whether you're visiting England for 3 weeks or 3 years, one difference that I think you're going to notice straight away when you arrive is a category that I am calling life admin. Here I'm thinking about your banking because one thing that you probably take for granted is Swish and bank ID, but say goodbye to that when you move to the UK. Yes, it's almost like stepping back into a simpler time. If you want to send someone money, you have to bank transfer it to them, but it's nowhere near as hard as it is here in Sweden. It doesn't take several days to cross over to the other bank account. You can do it instantly. And the same when it comes to bank ID. There is no simple way to just validate your identity online. You're probably going to use your signature instead. And while you do have a kind of personnummer, which we call a national insurance number, you probably don't need to remember it. In fact, I couldn't tell you mine off the top of my head because I barely ever used it. Unlike in Sweden, where you've literally got used to needing a personnummer for everything, even finding a place to live, you're not going to need that so much in England. The only time you're going to be using your personnummer equivalent in the UK is when you're applying for a job and they want to know your information for tax purposes. One saving grace of living in the UK though is that unless you are self-employed, you do not need to declare your taxes any longer. So come April, you don't really need to think about your taxable income for the last year anymore. That's all done automatically for you, and they'll tell you if they owe you money or if you owe them money. And sticking with the topic of life admin, one thing you need to be aware of is that finding somewhere to live in England is completely different to here in Sweden. In Sweden, more often than not, if you're going to rent a place to live, the price is the price, but that's not the case in the UK. There's a starting price and you can bid, and if someone bids higher than you, it's more likely that they'll get the apartment. For that very reason, a top tip that I've got from lots of my Swedish friends here is that when you're going to go to the UK to live, make sure you wait until you get there to look for somewhere to stay. The reason being that if you try and do it from afar, it's easy to get scammed or actually to try and sign up for a property that doesn't actually exist. So why not book yourself a nice little weekend where you can pop across to London, stay in an Airbnb and visit all sorts of different apartments, and then you can make your pick once you've seen them. And I'm sure it probably sounds stressful now, but let me tell you what, that's something I miss because I've talked in previous videos about how hard it is to find somewhere to live here in Sweden. In England, there are so many more choices. I genuinely thought when I got to Sweden, I'd just be able to go to 6 or 7 different house viewings to choose where I wanted to stay. And you guys know by now that that's not the case. Whereas in England, you can literally book those in over the course of a weekend and find your perfect property. And now that you've secured your perfect place to live, that brings me nicely on to my 4th thing that you're going to want to know before you move to London, and that surrounds activities and entertainment. Yes, don't be fooled by outdated stereotypes. You're not going to find every Brit sat in a pub every night after work. That is not what we all do. Sure, pubs are a thing, but these days, particularly with the younger generations, you're going to find us doing all sorts of crazy activities after work. Around any of the big cities, there's pop-up bars, there's pop-up escape rooms, there's experiences and exhibitions to explore. So prepare yourself for a packed social life, because if you're living in and around London, every night of the week could be booked up doing different activities with different friends. So don't worry, it's going to be quite easy to meet people, because this week there's going to be some pop-up exhibition at some art gallery, and next week you'll be playing laser tag. And I can't stress it enough, make the most of those opportunities while they're there, because some of them are only there for a limited period of time, and it's cool to go and experience it while it is, before you missed it. And once you've satisfied yourself and burnt holes in your pockets by literally spending all of your spare cash and all of these experiences, then you can buy a cheap train ticket and hop out and explore the English countryside. In England, it's actually quite cheap and very straightforward to get hold of a travel card for a train network, which will literally allow you to go out and about as much as you like to your heart's content. So from London, you can pop down to Brighton in an hour, go across to Southampton in 2. There is so many different places to go and explore, so you are never short of things to do. And one complaint that I hear in Sweden from my local friends here is that the train network in Sweden isn't very easy to use. It's very hard to get from place to place. That's not the case in England. We have so many different options, very frequent services, so you are never going to be short of things to do if you find yourself lost for stuff at the weekends. And that actually brings me nicely on to my 5th and final thing that you're going to want to prepare for before you make your trip to England. And that is that the tempo really is different. I'm sure if you've lived in Gothenburg or Stockholm, you think you've got a pretty good idea about how a big city works, but London plays by its own rules. Bear in mind that the population is literally almost the size of the entire population of Sweden in one city. So the scale is very different, and it's going to appear like there's a lot always going on. People are hurrying from place to place. There's a lot of hustle and bustle. Even the traffic plays by different rules, so you're going to want to prepare for that. You're going to see roads busier than you've ever seen before. And just like anywhere, I'm sure it will take its adapting to, but once you've done that, there is a world of opportunities to explore and enjoy. And with that 5th and final tip, I will send you on your merry way with my best wishes for a happy and healthy time in London. But if you've been before and you feel like I missed something, or there was something else that caught you off guard when you first arrived, you've got to let me know in the comments down below. And once you've done that, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. I put out videos very frequently. It'd be awesome to have you along for the ride. But until next time, I wish you well, enjoy London, and I'll see you soon. Bye guys.